everyone, this is Rachel from Queclink marketing team. On behalf of Queclink, I extend a warm welcome to all of you joining us today for this collaborative webinar with 3D tracking. Thank you for embarking on this journey with us as we delve into the realm of new generation video telematics solutions. We will not only invite Vano, our UK sales director, and Travis, our senior technical support engineer, to share insights into hardware manufacturing, but also have the privilege of having 3D tracking platforms product manager Rudy to shed light on their latest advancements in this field. Thank you all for being here. Feel free to raise your hand and actively participate in the discussions as we collectively drive forward the evolution of our industry. Thank you. Talking about our exciting agenda lineup today, we will discover various aspects of Queclink and 3D tracking's offerings. Let's jump right in. First, about Queclink. To kick things off, let's get to know Queclink a bit better. Queclink is a leading manufacturer which develops, manufactures, and delivers hardware that enables the world's most innovative IoT solutions. Second, market overview. We will share with you our insights and reports. We will explore the current landscape and trends that are shaping the industries Queclink serves. Next, product overview. Moving on to the heart of our discussion, Queclink's product lineup. We will take a closer look at our smart 4G dash camera, highlighting key features and functionalities. Use cases. We will explore 3 use cases that demonstrate how Queclink solutions are making a difference across industries, from transportation and logistics to automobile finance. These examples will showcase the versatility and effectiveness of Queclink's technology. About 3D tracking, we will touch on an important collaboration, Queclink's partnership with 3D Tracking, a global telematics platform. Next, video telematics demo. We will share a live demo of Queclink's video telematics capabilities on 3D tracking platform. We will showcase how these solutions work in real world. Q&A. Once again, it is our great honor to have Vano, Travis, and Rudy here. Feel free to ask any questions you may have. They are here to provide insights and address any inquiries you might have regarding Queclink solutions, 3D tracking platform, the market, or anything else related to our discussion today. Special offer. Last but not least, stay tuned for a special offer announcement. We have something exclusive for our webinar attendees, so don't miss out on this opportunity. Okay, great. This concludes our agenda for today's webinar. Once again, thank you for joining us. Let's dive into the presentation, starting with an in-depth look at Queclink and 3D tracking.
For those of you who don't know Queclink, we are a publicly traded company on the Chinese stock exchange with just over $1 billion US dollar market cap. To date, we have around 52 million devices shipped out worldwide. We have about 3,800 customers worldwide, and that's growing week on week. And we operate in around 140 countries. We have a compound annual growth rate of around 71%, which I think if you take into account the economic turmoil over the last couple of years, I think that's a pretty impressive figure. We have a workforce of around 500 employees worldwide. And for me, to be honest with you, I think probably the 2 most salient points on here are the last 2. 62% of our 500 plus employee force are engineers. And I believe that's indicative of our company's drive and focus to create and engineer the best products for you, our customers. And then finally, I've always said in all my years of telematics, which is a long time now, the mark of a good company is what it spends on research and development. Queclink have 3 R&D centers in China. These are state-of-the-art facilities, and a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to be able to go and visit one of them. And I have to say, I was absolutely blown away by the level of technical prowess shown within the R&D centers, the skill of the individuals, the machinery, the equipment. It was, for me, a truly amazing experience. So we're an industry leader. We're definitely one of the biggest in our sphere in terms of what we do. We have an incredibly broad product lineup, and that ranges from your basic self-powered asset tracking devices all the way through to incredibly complex CAN and tachograph enabled devices. We have a range of Wi-Fi routers, and believe it or not, we also do livestock telematics. Within our product lineup, we have some very niche and specialized products geared towards the user-based insurance market, stolen vehicle recovery, and of course, what we're here to talk about today, the dashcam range. We have a global presence, as I alluded to in the previous slide, 140 countries, but we have localized teams in those countries as well, which means culturally, linguistically, we can address the needs of our prospects and our customers in the most efficient way, giving them a truly localized presence and support. Remember those R&D centers we talked about? Well, one of them is dedicated specifically for the EMEA market. In fact, we shipped around 5 million devices last year. More than a third of those were destined for EMEA. And as you can tell by the last point, for us, EMEA is a crucial market, and there's an intense focus from Queclink on that EMEA market at the moment. If we look at the video telematics market in general, this information on the screen in front of you was taken from Berg Insight. There were around 5 million units shipped out in 2022. These are video telematics units. Berg Insight are forecasting a compound annual growth rate in this sector of around 18%, which equates to about 11.3 million devices in use by the year 2027. And if you look at that bar chart on the right-hand side, I think it's indicative of the strong growth and potential of this buoyant market. Queclink see this as an incredibly important sector, and I'm sure you as individuals and companies will agree. So let's look at some key challenges and objectives when implementing telematics. This is a little bit of telematics 101, and anyone who's been in this industry as long as me, forgive me for going through this. It's a bit like teaching granny to suck eggs, but I think it's important to run through all the same. One of the key challenges and objectives within this is reducing operational costs. So think about things like fuel, maintenance, wages, overtime, downtime of vehicles. Reduction of costs in any of these areas is beneficial to a business and can lead directly to an improvement of the bottom line. Managing insurance premiums, well, due to the very nature of their business, commercial fleets will traditionally have much higher premiums than yourself or myself. How do you reduce those premiums? Quite simply by managing the risk and reducing it. And that's what the dashcam range will assist with, which we'll talk about later on today. And then enhancing driver safety. There's nothing more important than getting your drivers back home to their families at the end of a day. In fact, I've always said your driver is probably your most important resource. You can have a beautiful fleet of vans, trucks, cars sat in your yard, but if you don't have drivers for those vehicles, they're useless and non-productive. So being able to identify and manage bad habits, bad behavior, driver behavior, monitoring fatigue, and improving your overall driver standards within your fleet will lead to a reduction in incidents and obviously the enhanced safety of your employees. And then finally, technology integration. Telematics is always an expensive, difficult process to go through. And it's important right at the beginning to make sure that whatever system you're choosing will dovetail into your existing systems. I've always said also it's important to make sure that the system is adopted from a grassroots level. Get your drivers buy-in. If you've got your drivers buy-in to the telematics solution that's being used, by pointing out that it's a benefit to them, you will get the return on your investment. We have just over a $1 billion market cap. To date, in our 14 years, we've shipped around 52 million devices into the globe. Currently, we have around 3,800 customers worldwide. There's a plus symbol on that because we're adding new customers all the time. We operate in around 140 countries, and we have a compound annual growth rate of around 71%, which, if you think of the last couple of years that we've had with COVID and everything else, I think that's a pretty impressive figure. We have around 500 employees worldwide, just over 500 in fact. And for me, the last 2 points on this slide are probably the most pertinent. Out of our 500 plus employees, 62% of those are actually engineers. And I think that's indicative of our company's drive and focus to create and engineer the best products for you, our customers. And then the final point, we operate 3 research and development centers. Now, I've been in telematics for about 23 years, and I've always said that the mark of a great company is what they spend on R&D. And we have 3 state-of-the-art facilities in China. I was very lucky a couple of weeks ago to actually visit one of these R&D centers. And I don't know if anyone in the audience is a Star Wars or Star Trek fan, but that's very much what it felt like to me. It was like stepping into the future. Absolutely glistening white interior, hermetically sealed areas. And to be honest with you, the level of ingenuity and technology that I saw in the R&D center, for me personally, was astounding. So, as I mentioned before, we're an industry leader. We're one of the largest manufacturers of telematics and IoT hardware in the world. We have an incredibly broad product portfolio. Now, that ranges from basic asset tracking devices through to vehicle tracking devices, again, your basic track and trace units, through to complex CAN and tachograph enabled units. We have a range specifically for things like user-based insurance, stolen vehicle recovery, etc. We also manufacture a range of industrial cellular routers. If anyone else is interested in those, please do let me know. And believe it or not, we also supply livestock tracking hardware as well. We have a global presence, as I mentioned in the previous slide, so around 140 countries that we look after, but we do look to have localized teams in those areas. Multilingual people, making sure that we're looking after our customers and prospects in the best way possible. Now, there's an intense focus from Queclink on the EMEA market. To give you an idea, there were around 14 million devices shipped last year. More than a third of those were destined for the EMEA region. And with that in mind, with those R&D centers I was talking about previously, one of those R&D centers is specifically dedicated to the development of products for the EMEA market. In terms of video telematics itself, let's have a look at the sector. So this information is taken from Berg Insight. Now, I've got graphical representation on the right-hand side, and I've got numbers on the left. Basically, in 2022, Berg Insight report 5 million units in operation in the video telematics sector. What they estimate is that by the year 2027, there'll be roughly 11.3 million systems in use. Now, that's more than double what's currently in play at the moment over the next 3 years, which is quite staggering. They are forecasting a 17.9, so let's call it 18% compound annual growth rate during that period. And if you look on the right-hand side, you can see that laid out on the bar graph, North America versus Europe. And I think that that bar graph is indicative of a strong growth potential in this very, very buoyant market. In terms of the trends themselves in video telematics, so you've probably all heard of these, but let's talk through them a little bit. So AI-powered video analytics, well, what is that? You can imagine you've got a fleet of, I don't know, 100 vehicles, all recording data constantly, all recording footage constantly. It would take hours and hours and hours for a human being, or even a room full of human beings, to basically run through that information and pick up on the specific events to be able to then give guidance to the company using the system. Well, the idea here is that you've actually got a computer that's basically doing this in real time, and it's able to go through thousands of hours of footage and thousands of vehicles incredibly quickly and provide patterns, anomalies, pick up anomalies, as I said, and provide real valuable insight for the business to then use. When we talk about driver behavioral monitoring, yes, that's been around a long time in telematics, absolutely. But what does video telematics bring to that arena? It brings a whole new range of metrics. Things like drowsiness, driver distraction, smoking, eating, all of these metrics are now added on top of the traditional metrics we used to use, allowing a business to have a much better overall picture of their driver and his behavioral patterns. And then the dual-facing multi-camera solution. So right back at the beginning of video telematics, you'd have this massive brick in your windscreen, which some of the units still are quite big, that would then be just looking outside the vehicle towards the front of the vehicle and what was going on in front. You might see a driving event come up, a harsh braking event, a harsh cornering event, but you had no idea what sat behind that. So the idea of actually having a camera that was facing the driver to give you the driver's face and let you know basically what he was doing at the time of that incident has started to become really valuable, especially in the insurance market, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. So those are the trends in video telematics. If we look at the video sort of benefits that a video telematics solution can provide, again, some of this is kind of telematics 101, it's old school stuff, but reducing operational costs. Things like fuel, maintenance, wages, overtime, downtime, all of these things where traditionally you would have used a telematics unit for, you can now actually get this information out of a dash camera. And a reduction in any of those areas is going to add to the bottom line of any business. So it's a great benefit. When we talk about managing insurance premiums, well, fleets, purely by nature of what they do, tend to have much higher insurance premiums than private individuals like me and you. So again, being able to reduce those premiums is of a huge benefit to any company. And the idea behind that is having video footage that you can share with your insurance company at just after an incident or at point of incident is invaluable. We all know that the longer a claim goes on, the more it costs. So having this footage to hand, being able to send it to your insurance company to prove or disprove liability is a great benefit. And then enhancing driver safety. Well, getting these guys home to their families every night is the top priority of every business, there's no doubt. Travis has always said to me, and I totally agree with him, most valuable resource in any company is their driver. You can have a fleet of 1,000 vans or trucks with the best equipment possible on them, but without the drivers, you've got nothing. So being able to monitor their behavior, make sure that they're not being pushed too hard, make sure that any bad habits they might have are addressed and that you can help them to overcome these habits and drive safer and better in order to get home to their families. And then providing an all-in-one telematics solution. So as I hinted at earlier on, the dash cams of today are pretty much able to behave just as a traditional telematics unit, as well as give you all the benefits of video telematics as well. So with that in mind, let me introduce our CV200 series dash camera. I'll put a couple of USPs on the right-hand side here, just to sort of talk through. The first point is compact, elegant design. And I chose the word elegant because in all honesty, every time I've handed this camera to a customer or a prospect, I've had the same thing back from them. They say, what an amazing piece of hardware. They pick it up, they hold it, it feels solid. The build quality on it is fantastic. It's tiny in comparison to some of those brick-sized cameras that I was talking to you about earlier on. It takes up very little windscreen space and is a nice addition to any van, car, or truck. It comes with a full HD forward-facing camera at 1080p. It's obviously a 4G live streaming capable device. It comes at a very low cost entry point, and I would love to discuss the commercials of the camera with anyone who would like to discuss that after this webinar. We'll have an opportunity to fill out a form right at the end where you can let us know if you want to have that kind of conversation. And it has an upgrade path to increase sales and revenue. Now, why have I said that? Well, out the box, it comes as a forward-facing camera, nice entry-level device at a really good price. But you have the opportunity to add secondary cameras onto this particular unit. And the idea behind that is you might have a customer who's going into video telematics for the first time. Sell them an entry-level forward-facing camera, that's great. But it gives you the ability to go back and revisit your customer after a period of time, or even at point of sale, say to them, would you like a driver-facing camera to add to that? Would you like a rear-facing camera to add to that, etc.? So it gives you the opportunity to sell more hardware and increase your revenue. The camera comes with DMS and ADAS functionality. ADAS, I should stress at this point, will be released next year. That's a firmware update to the camera, but the DMS functionality is alive and kicking, and we will show you that in a short while. As I mentioned before, true telematics from a dash camera. Again, there will be firmware updates that next year that will actually allow this camera to deliver things like fuel information from the vehicle as well. Currently not available, but it will be available early next year. And as I said to you, all the niceties of traditional telematics, so your live location, start stops, etc., that's all available currently. Now, our camera is based on Android technology, so it's always awake and always ready. And that might not sound like too much of a sales point, but for me, it really is. And the reason for that is when I was selling video telematics a couple of years ago, one of the questions I was constantly asked was, right, I've parked my van in a car park for the day. I've gone to do some work. I've come back to my car and I've noticed that somebody's reversed into it and driven off. Have you got the footage for that? Well, traditionally, the answer would have been no, because most cameras will take about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to actually boot up. But because of the Android technology, our camera is always awake. And if something like that should happen, the motion detection will immediately activate the camera and it comes alive within about 3 or 4 seconds and starts taking footage. And I'll touch on that again when we talk about secondary cameras later on. So in terms of the driver behavioral information and tracking, it's in-depth accelerometer-based tracking and driver behavior. And what that means is, as I said before, you'll get your traditional starts, stops, journey replays, things like that. If you look on the right-hand side, we've got a screenshot from 3Dtracking there showing a journey replay, but I'm not going to touch on this too much because obviously Rudy's going to go into that in some detail in a short while. In terms of your driver behavioral management, you've got things like your harsh cornering, harsh braking, and then all the DMS functionality that I talked about earlier on. And again, we're going to talk about that in more depth coming up. So, out the box, what do you get? Well, in terms of the camera itself, as I said before, it's a forward-facing unit, 1080p. You get your vehicle telematics with it. You get your event-based recording. So, harsh cornering, harsh braking, anything else, for example, that you set up as an event, go into detail later. Detection, so at point of impact, obviously with it being accelerometer based, it knows there's been an impact in the vehicle. It will immediately capture that footage, and you can either have that stored on the device itself or you can have it shipped off to the cloud. Again, that option is up to you. It has an SOS and panic facility. It's able to actually manage speech as well. And there's a button on the camera to capture what you might deem as an event. Now, I've actually used that myself. I was sitting in a line of stationary traffic. I saw an incident occur in front of me. Somebody came through a red light and collided with another vehicle. I simply pressed the button on my camera and I was able to go to the guy who'd been hit and offer him the footage to share with his insurance company, which he gladly took. On-demand video. So basically, if you know that something happened roughly 2 o'clock yesterday, you're able to go in and interrogate the camera and pull that footage out. And then obviously the live streaming function as well. If we're talking about secondary cameras, I'll go through them. The first 3 are on the screen at the moment. So you have the interior IR camera. That's your top left unit. Now, that can be used for either driver facing or it can be used for passenger facing. So monitoring how people are behaving inside a vehicle. Next to that, you've got the dome camera, which would go into vans or trucks for cargo management, so making sure that pallets or whatever else is being loaded or unloaded off a vehicle. And then you've got your rear end camera, which is the bottom camera out of those 3. So that's a waterproof rear camera, obviously for rear collision detection. Could also be used for monitoring what's going on and off the vehicle, depending on how you use the solution. And then obviously your enhanced driver behavioral monitoring, again, through potentially the first camera, but also more importantly, through the DMS driver management system camera. So the DMS camera is mounted in front of the driver. It sees in black and white, which we will show you in a short while. It's an incredibly intelligent piece of kit. Can actually see your eyes through sunglasses, but I think I just stole Trav's thunder there. He was going to talk to you about that later on. But it will measure the metrics that you can see on the screen in front of you. So smoking, phone calls, yawning, yawning and eyes closing, and distraction. Now, you can have audible in-cab alerts for any of those events or not. It's entirely up to you. And why that's important, you might say that, well, actually smoking or drinking is a driver's choice. Therefore, I'm going to capture that footage and send it to the cloud or store it on the device. But actually, I don't want the camera beeping at the driver or talking to the driver. But if he's yawning and his eyes are closing or he seems distracted, then absolutely, I want to alert him in real time. Again, completely configurable. And again, we'll talk through that later on in the webinar. Use cases then. So passenger transfer. With GDPR in mind, let's put it this way. You can have this camera as driver facing, monitoring how passengers are interacting with the driver, or you could have it as passenger facing, monitoring how the driver's interacting with the passengers, whichever way you like to put it effectively. But it can be used in a variety of different scenarios. But passenger transfer, taxis, that type of thing, that's a good use for this particular camera. You obviously get all the usual niceties that we talked about, so your tracking and event-based recording, etc., etc. Use case 2, cargo and logistics. Now here, this is using the dome camera that we spoke about. You are able to obviously monitor stock being put on and off of a vehicle. And we're going to touch on that firmware update I spoke about earlier on. The camera is Bluetooth enabled. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that so far, but we are able to connect, or we will be able to connect early next year to rear door switches. And what that means, of course, same scenario as that car park. If your van's parked up, somebody forces the back doors of it open to try and steal your equipment. Again, within 3 or 4 seconds, the camera's live and it's recording the thieves as they're climbing into the van. Again, obviously, all the other parameters of the forward-facing camera are still in that package. So your tracking, your forward-facing view, etc. And then the final use case I wanted to talk about is insurance claims. So obviously, you've got the CB200 in the front of the vehicle doing your forward-facing video, but you can have the either the interior IR camera that we talked about, or the waterproof rear or backdoor camera that I'm showing you here for rear collision detection. It's an ideal insurance offering, we believe. Reason for that is we also have an OBD power loom for the camera. Now, insurance companies like that because they can basically package it all up in a neat box, ship it off to the customer, who can pretty much self-install. Plant the camera onto the windscreen, plug the OBD in, and you've got power to the camera straight away. So it's a self-install scenario. I must point out that the OBD loom that we supply is power only. So it's not connecting to the can of a vehicle in any way. It's purely for power. The idea behind that, oh, and one last point, driver identification. Again, via the Bluetooth of the camera, we have a wireless fob that can be used for driver identification as to who was actually in the vehicle at the time. I'm now going to hand over to Travis, who's going to talk to you about the configuration possibilities of the CB200. Trav, are you there?
Yeah, hi everyone. Vernon, if you can control, yeah, perfect. Actually, I've covered things up there which I didn't want to, but that's fine. That's because I was going to do it later, but let's come back to that. So yeah, the product that we have, the CB200, is highly configurable, and I wanted to talk through some of those things today, some that I felt were probably more relevant. There's been a few questions come up, and we will answer those questions in the Q&A session directly. Some have obviously been supported already, but we'll continue to add some more value to that. And I think some will be answered with Rudy's session later as well, as he talks through the platform and the integration. But for now, just talking about some of these configurations here, what I wanted to show you is where we talk about video capture. Obviously, this is on event, and we can actually configure which events that we actually want to capture, and also what type of data we would want to capture, whether we want to record that locally or whether we want to automatically upload that to the platform. So obviously, the platform that we're configured with, in this case, the 3Dtracking platform, as an event happens, it will then upload either effectively a video or a snapshot, depending on what your selection is. Now, you'll see here on the enable piece, unfortunately, the basic settings sits over it a little bit because there's a few other things in there. But there's a number of different events in there. Effectively, they are all configurable to whether you just want to record locally on the SD card, so it's saved for later for review, or whether you want to record and upload that immediately. So on event, you can actually upload the video directly to your server, so it's then accessible by the platform. Same with snapshots. And to give you an example of why we've added this kind of flexibility is in some cases you may want to obviously reduce your data usage. If you just suddenly put tick, tick, tick to record and upload to absolutely every single event, such as ignition on, ignition off, every acceleration event, every braking event, potentially that could utilize your data usage on your sims. So you don't really want to use that. So in some cases, we have providers where they just want a snapshot, for example, of your basic information. So your basic events. So acceleration, braking, cornering, on those events, you might just want a snapshot so that you can then link it to the event and the location that it's happened. You can have a look at that and you can decide whether you want to request that data. So the camera has the ability to be able to request data at a later date, as long as obviously that data is still available on the card. We were talking about SD cards. I think there's some questions on there. And yes, look, we can support up to 512. Currently, we validated at 256. So we're still looking at 512 because the larger the card, the more challenging it is to make sure that we can ensure the quality of that and making sure that it's not erroring, we're not getting any corruption or anything. So 256, a high performance SD card is currently what you get. You'll get, depending on your settings, probably within 70 to 80 hours worth of playback or recording on that. Does vary based on configurations. So, you're looking at, depending how much you drive, a good week plus potentially of driving, but I appreciate obviously all different circumstances are different. So yeah, in the event there, you can then request that data and then obviously it will then upload to the server at a later date. So that can be requested. Rudy will talk a bit more about that feature and that enablement of that at a later date. So in addition to that, the same with the DMS features, so the AI features. As I said, unfortunately, it sits just underneath these, but I'll talk about those. So again, you've got all of these features such as eyes closed detection, yawning detection, phone usage detection, driver distraction, and smoking detection. So all of these things, you can decide which ones are important to you. So just to add to that, what we've got in terms of other elements that we can do here, you notice there's record. We can actually decide whether we want to record audio or not audio on the cameras. We can also decide whether we want to turn a camera on or off. So you may have an interior camera that's actually installed in the vehicle, but you may want to turn that off for whatever reason, temporarily or long term. And again, those type of configurations can be controlled by the platform as well. So the platform can then send commands to the device to actually update the configuration. So it isn't a case of one configuration once it's out there and you're done. There is the ability to obviously over the air change your configurations as well. And just one more in here before we move to the next one. I thought it was important just to show the configurability even of each individual event, especially the DMS events. So the piece in the middle here, the image in the middle is actually identifying the eyes closed event. You can enable or disable all of these independently, but you'll notice there's also additional tolerances that can be set, so additional parameters. One of the key ones I think here really is we set a bunch of defaults for these, which we think we're relatively comfortable with. However, one of the ones that people are interested in is the trigger speed. So for example, eye closed detection, you may not be interested in that unless it's moving over 10 kilometers per hour. So in this case, as a default, we set it as 0. But you can set it to 10, 15, 20, whatever you think is relevant based on obviously your circumstances and your environment, your use case. But each of the events, certainly the DMS events, is all configurable in this way. So again, trigger duration, how long it's going to take before it's going to trigger. If it's happening too frequently, again, you can actually adjust that accordingly if you wish. Not something I would always advise, but certainly the trigger speed is definitely something to consider. But if you just pop to the next one, it'll be my last kind of chat on some of the configurability. So on this one, I just wanted to add one, show you some images. There's me obviously demonstrating some of those events that we've discussed and the snapshots that happen. You'll notice here it's a black and white image. That's actually based on the camera that we're using specifically. It supports that mainly because it gives us the ability to look through Polaroid glasses and so on like that, so that we can still detect eyes closed detection even when you've got sunglasses and such on. On the left-hand side, the thing I wanted to talk about here is actually configurable volume levels and specific event in cab voice notifications. So with these events that happen, you can configure the device as it does have a speaker within it and a microphone. You can configure it to actually notify your driver of the event that's happened. Now, in my case of testing, I enable all of these so I can just make sure that it's running all the time, so my cab gets pretty noisy. In this case, a very typical setting would be just enabling eyes closed, yawning, and distraction. that will then obviously notify the driver if any of these events are captured. So if you've obviously got them set to record, they will record, but also do an audible notification in cab to the driver, just as an alert, something to kind of disrupt them or, you know, distract them. If they are, you know, closing their eyes or yawning, I mean, we all know we're doing it, but it's kind of just a wake up. Look, you're being seen here. Maybe you need to take a break. It doesn't say that, but, you know, obviously that's the kind of thing we want them to consider. Again, if you wanted to, you can actually put on any of these events. So acceleration, braking. The point of reference there is really if you want to use it as an in-cab training or coaching aid as well, potentially you can utilize it in that way, so that you set these tolerances for each of these events, acceleration and braking, and then obviously the driver is then made aware that an event has happened. Just an additional final piece on that, at the top you'll see that each individual kind of volume setting is specific to, so the multimedia level is obviously what talks to you, so that will be the event notifications. There's a call level, that is to do with the volume when we have an in-cab call based on the SOS function we have, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And there's also ring volume again, so that's something that's coming back, and interaction with the driver specifically, so we can set that relatively high as well. I suppose that's my opportunity just to quickly throw that SOS function in there, which I think Vernon did mention earlier. It is a two-way SOS function, and that means that we have a microphone and a speaker obviously within the camera. That enables on the SOS function where you hold the button for 8 seconds or a period of time, it can actually open up a mobile communication to a number of your choice, so effectively, so you can open up a call and then have a conversation. It's two-way. You can close that off as well, obviously yourself, but it's important to know that that will also create a special event, which will then be stored on the SD card. And when I say stored, it will actually be stored and protected. So there is protected space within the SD card as well. That will be my waffling. I tend to go on. So thanks for your attention. We'll just move back to Vernon.
Thanks for that, Trav. Just a quick recap before I hand over to Rudy. So we talked about most of the features of the CB200. Obviously, the OBD, easy installation option, the optional secondary cameras, the ADAS, the AI, DMS functionality, the SOS bit Trav's just covered. I think, in fairness, we've probably covered most of this, apart from the last point, which is the Wi-Fi capability of the device. Now, what that means is for users who want to control their airtime costs, you can set the camera up. Basically, if it's coming to a location at the end of its day where it'll be within Wi-Fi range, either that's a business or at your home, you can configure it so that it links up to that Wi-Fi and downloads all video footage via Wi-Fi rather than using valuable airtime. I think that's all we need to say from a Queclink perspective for the moment. So I'm now going to hand over to Rudy to talk you through the 3D tracking side of things. Rudy, take it away.
Thank you very much, Vernon, and good day, everyone. My name is Rudy Grobler. I'm the product manager here at 3Dtracking. 3Dtracking is proud to work with leading hardware providers like Queclink on this webinar and many other webinars in the past, and we will continue to do so in the future. We hope you find this webinar both interesting and beneficial to your business needs. To give everyone some background on our company, 3Dtracking is a global telematics service provider with more than 17 years of experience in the telematics market, operating over 100 countries and providing telematics services to over 9,000 companies, where we process over 500,000 records per day. With our dedicated account managers and multilingual support located throughout the world, means our partners engage on a one-on-one basis with 3Dtracking. Coupled with the fact that we do not delete any data and you have unlimited storage history of your vehicles, makes this a truly global solution we are very proud of. As a software-only provider, 3Dtracking focuses on research, design, development, and maintenance of the cloud-based solution that is integrated with all the leading telematics hardware providers like Queclink. At 3Dtracking, we focus on cutting-edge functionality and the highest level of support to provide our partners with a class-leading white-label telematics solution. We pride ourselves as being hardware agnostic, and our developers constantly add new devices to the platform. And that is why we are here today, to demonstrate the new Queclink CV200 dashcam on the 3Dtracking platform. So if I could just share my screen.
I'll stop sharing mine.
Do you see my screen?
Okay.
Yeah, perfect, Chris.
Okay, perfect. Let me do this again. So for convenience, we have located live streaming right on the tracking page. So immediately, if you click on your live streaming demonstration, we can go in here, you can see the real time going there. And for anyone who doesn't know what the back of Table Mountain looks like, now you know.
Are
This
you
is
parked on
actually
your
where our
balcony,
offices
Rudy?
are located. Say again?
I was going to say, are you parked on your balcony?
It's actually in our offices. we removed this unit from the vehicle.
No worries.
That's perfect. And again, from our tracking page, we with ease can immediately see all vital information at first glance. So we can see sensor data. For instance, if I click on the sensor data, here is a downloadable graph immediately of all sensors connected to the device. We can see whom the driver is, when last we received data, when last an updated GPS position was received, a location of the current device. We have a server-side odometer as well as engine hours and the activities for the day. If we go look now at what this telemetry data looks like on the platform, we can see here some trips we've done, recorded trips we've done. You can see immediately we've got the speed graph here, giving you real roadside speed as well as the vehicle speed going through the trip. You can also replay this trip. And in here, we see all the critical information that you want to have a look at. You'll have your trip start and trip end, your driver scoring, the driver who was involved in that, any type of business related cost or trip identification assigned to that. You also see the duration and time. And then also you'll notice the newly added icon, a video icon indicating that this trip actually had a video event. So in here, we can see all the trip data being pointed onto the platform, all the information there. As Travis has mentioned how versatile this camera is, we have actually set it up to take a snapshot at the start and the end of a trip. So this is quite crucial for a lot of operators to know, is this who was actually starting and ending the trip in the vehicle? Does the driver actually match, or that some people require that information? We also can see here a scenario where the driver's eyes were closed. So you can clearly see the driver was closed. This is with the DMS camera. We also have all the harsh events. For instance, okay, this is a quick filter. There's harsh braking here, for instance. We have harsh cornering, and we can start looking at video that was uploaded automatically to the platform, how that will look like. So that will all play on the platform as well. A little bit buffering there. And the other type of criteria we have also in here. So all the data will be listed in here as well. We also have the trip charts available. So duration spent within a different speed bands, which you can set up for your organization. Again, the same trip profile as listed down here. Activity charts, pie charts, again, sensor data. All of these sections are downloadable in the format you require. In the detail section, there's more the business type of things. So where you can assign what type of trip it is, a business trip or a private trip or something like that, or you can actually locate certain costs, even being a fixed cost or variable costing, or that can be done post operation or post your trip, so you can classify all the trip criteria. On your driver behavior, all the information will be listed here as well. This guy had a very bad score because he's got quite a few incidents here, but you can set how much the weighting of each incident will be for your driver. And then we've added the new media section on the platform where you can quickly access any image that was part of that trip or any video that was part of the trip where you can play back in real time. So as mentioned also with the passenger scenario, as Vernon mentioned, type cameras, in this scenario, we've done exactly that. We've replaced the internal camera with the black DMS camera and replaced it with the wide angle passenger type view. So again, you can see just a snapshot of the incident. Again, we can look at the video, for instance, how that will play. This will be also, you can also play this back on the platform. That one is busy loading. There we go. All of the data is downloadable. So I'm just hearing multiple things here. All of the data is downloadable from the platform. Okay. Next, I want to go to the report section. Because this CV200 also provides these rich telematic data, not just AI data, this is where the power comes in because of our reporting. As we said, we don't delete any history, so you can report on anything that happened for your vehicle from day one. Even if new reports come in, you can run them, rerun them on that system. So we offer reports for various scenarios, and we constantly add new reports that is required on the platform or from our customers. You can schedule a report. This one, for instance, let me just hide that. Sorry, that's right. This one, for instance, is a very simple, quick, and easy report. You can just see some driver distraction was done, where it was located, what's the area of where it occurred. So we can quickly see, okay, it occurred in this section here. You can do a street view if that is a requirement, or you can even go to something a little bit more in-depth type reporting. So this is another alarm listing report I've done. Just rerun, as we don't delete any of your data. Same information. It just gives you a little bit more detail on the type of event that occurred, and it actually allows you to click straight to that trip scenario. You can see it was event that occurred there, and we can immediately go see what is that trip and go review the footage if we want to do that. Other than that report, we also have what we call a compound report. Now, a compound report is a very unique feature we've have for quite some time already. This is, you have multiple criteria. So not just a simple, did I have a harsh braking? Is it, did I have a harsh braking within a certain area, or what was the temperature range of my goods? And was it in this range? Was the door open? So you can create all these multiple criteria to actually hone down on the important information before you just get bombarded with just a lot of events that don't really add value. So it builds some intelligence in the system. For this one, for instance, I looked at where a mobile phone was used above a certain speed limit, and it was actually in a high accident zone we have identified beforehand. So it just brings the power of the system to the front. On our alerts section, again, here, when we get alerts in, this is another power we have. As soon as you set up an alert, you can set the priority via RGB, or your color coding. You can set a priority to whom the alert must be sent to, and even how that user will get the alert, be it in the inbox on the platform, SMS, email, or push notification. And we can also have like actions. So as soon as this specific alert occurs, you can say certain actions must be completed, and you can make it mandatory. When we can look at an example here, there was an accident here. If we click on that, there is action steps required. You have to inform the police. That's a mandatory field, and it's audited, and you can leave a comment here as well. So it gives ability for the users to really build on the system. As with the reports, we also have compound alerts. Again, now you can trap it even earlier. Even the reports, almost we can trap it if you don't have it, didn't have that functionality in the past. Now you can even grab it quicker in the system. So you can set up alerts that is really important to you. And that's one of our key features we've also been exploring, if you can call it that. On the dashboard side, again, dashboards are critical for the operation of any company. You have insights here that you cannot see just with an export. You can immediately detect trends, what happened to your system, how many incidents occurring during what day of the week. So all that criteria is very critical for business operation. And another thing we've also added into the platform is using of heat maps. So heat maps we've had some time already, but now we can see, for instance, here's a heat map of the telematic data of the device. We can see it's quite a nice hotspot here. I can immediately on the platform now, I can choose to create a point of interest or no-go zone. Then I can do reporting or any type of event-based criteria on that geolocation to better trap it or to better understand why everyone is going to that direction. The last thing I want to demonstrate is the remote configurability. As Travis has mentioned, how configurable the product is. Now we know in some areas, like in Europe, some European areas, recording of audio in the cab, that is considered privacy invasion. So with, I just have to jump to the maintenance platform because then I have control of it. So here we've built in, or we've got a system where you can actually send a message directly to the device itself. I've added some pre-made templates, for instance, for disable audio recording. As soon as we can send this command is sent to the device, it will take immediate effect. This can be done with anything. So when you've got a programming tool from Queclink, you can see what settings you want to change. You can copy that code that's on the programming tool, paste it in here. It will take immediate effect, and you don't have to visit the actual vehicle. That was end of my demonstration. So back to you again, Vernon.
Great stuff, Rudy. Thank you. Let me share my screen again. We're now going to move to the Q&A session. I can see that there's been a lot of questions coming in. I see Trav's been furiously answering some of them on his keyboard, but how do you want to play this, Trav? Shall we go through them start to finish, or?
Yeah, I'll just have a look. I'll go through what's on the chat. There's been a few I've been answering on the actual Q&A piece, but there's a number that have been repeated or are new that are on the chat. So I'll just run through some of these, see if I can answer them. If I haven't, please throw something out there as I go back. Just come down.
Do you want me to put the chat on the screen? Would that be easy?
I've got no, it's fine. Don't do that. I've got the chat here. It's fine.
Okay.
So we talked about size of memory card. I mentioned that. I think it's been supported by one of our partners in here already. So the device can take up to 512 gigabytes, but at the moment it's not validated for that. So we validated for 256. I think I mentioned. It obviously depends on settings, but you can probably get between 70 and 80 hours on that in terms of what's available in there. It does depend, obviously, what you record. One thing I didn't mention, just to add some more information, the SD card itself, it then has a partition within it, and you can control that partition to say 70%, 30%. The smaller area, or depending how you want to do it, is actually protected area. So in the larger area of the SD card, that's where it will have continuous recording. So it basically records in minute slots continuously. And then obviously when it has a specific event, it then actually takes that event and records that event and stores it. Now, unless it is an emergency event, a critical event such as panic, crash detection, or SOS, for example, those events will go into the, as a specific to make sure they're stored and not lost in any way or overwritten, into the protected area. So invariably, we probably set those to 80-20, so that 80% of the SD card is set for effectively your continuous recording and your normal everyday kind of eventing, such as harsh braking, harsh acceleration, and so on. So that's just something to be mindful of. Main reason, obviously, is because that's kind of data that for any reason we wouldn't want to be lost, and we want to be able to review that at a later date rather than it being overwritten for any reason. Just have a quick look what else we've got coming on down here.
See, Rudy's got one there from Jim, just asking whether the CV200 is fully integrated. You want to answer that one quickly, Rudy?
Yes. No worries. So the 200 is fully integrated in the 3D tracking platform, correct? So all the features pump into the system, no problem. I see another one there, if you don't mind. There's a from Diana. Is this the 3D tracking platform has 3D mappings? Now we just use the Google Maps or the OpenStreetMaps. And there was another one I saw. Is it possible for 3D tracking platform to be hosted on a local server? No, we don't do that, but you can talk to your account managers. We actually have a customer in Africa that does API, where to get the data stored locally in country, which satisfy the needs for this local storage of data. There's another one from Diana for notifications to be sent to WhatsApp. No, we have not integrated WhatsApp notifications yet, but with your mobile app, you can do that.
Trav, you want to pick another one?
Yeah, just from Nick here. So how secure is the SD card? Can the driver easily access it? So what there is the SD card and the SIM card are both covered by a cover which then has torque screws over the top of that. I think it's a very typical kind of tamper-proofing. So they are covered, they're not easily accessible. Yes, obviously if they have a torque screwdriver, they will have access to it. But typically that's not something obviously you would make available. So yeah, that will cover the SD card. Just carrying on through. So this is one asked about, Babu asked, is it possible to work the camera based on motion detection? So yes, it is. So the camera being that we have the OBD cable connection as well, which is obviously for ease of install. Predominantly that was developed for the insurance market, for ease of install really, so that the insurance market could start to use it, give it to customers and save on the installation costs. That was the purpose of it. As Vernon said, it's not CAN connected, it's purely power based, but that means we have to, normally we obviously on a professional installation would take a professional ignition, professional installation would provide an ignition connection, so therefore we can take an ignition. In this case, we have a virtual ignition, which is very similar to any of the devices you would know that are battery tops. So it will use motion and or potentially some voltage as well to be able to detect that. Obviously, we know that not always voltage spikes are available with an OBD connection, so predominantly we're taking the motion detection of that, so yes, it does. Hotspot, no. At the moment, the camera doesn't support hotspot specifically to utilize the comms of the SIM card. We have two modes of use at the moment. One of those is so that you can connect to the SSID of the camera, but that's specifically for access via an app that we have, which we're going to extend capabilities of. That app is predominantly used for installation purposes at the moment and for the DMS calibration specifically. So more of an installer-based thing. It does give you access to all of the media on there as well. The second Wi-Fi setting is actually for your station mode, which Vernon mentioned. Station mode being that if you wanted to actually communicate via your Wi-Fi all of your data across. There was a question also from somebody regarding a lot of usage and whether they could actually use Wi-Fi mode to just store on the SD card the video and then kind of communicate via Wi-Fi. At the moment, you can do that, but you wouldn't be able to separate that into tracking data live on the SD card and then, for example, your media to be then uploaded by Wi-Fi. It is something that we're in conversation about, so we will talk about whether that's something we can make available. Can certainly see the benefit from it, if that makes sense. So yeah, we will certainly looking into that as an option. Oh yeah, sorry. No, Dennis, I don't smoke. That's why I didn't get a smoking example.
Eugene's asking if it's possible to use it on a train. To be honest with you, I can't see any reason why you couldn't use it on a train, Eugene. No, I don't see any reason why you couldn't. So yeah, if you want to put it in trains, be our guest.
Yeah.
Firmware. How is the firmware of the device upgraded, Trav? Andreas is asking that.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so the firmware itself, obviously, if there's features or anything that needs to be added, and one thing to be added there is the ADAS functionality, which I'll talk about briefly. There is over-the-air capability to update firmware. We provide either a full update if you want a full update, but actually we have what we call a photo file as well, which literally just takes you a small file, because obviously we want to minimize data usage over the air, and just takes you from one release to the next release. So both configurations and firmware can both be updated over the air. Varying different ways to do that. We do actually have a device management platform. There is an API, but as Rudy has implemented as well, configurations can be managed by the 3D tracking platform as well.
I've got two here from Jim, who's getting technical with us. He says, will the OBD installation wake up the CAN? Absolutely not, Jim. It's only power, taking power from the OBD. There is no other connection whatsoever. And then his other question, which I think is more you than me, Trav, is will the protected partition overwrite eventually?
No. No, the protected partition will not overwrite. At the moment, we're not providing remote access to that protected partition. That's something we're looking at the moment. Whether we do provide remote access, it is actually, sounds a bit crazy, but it's kind of a backup mechanism at the moment. Obviously, that data will be uploaded if uploaded is what's requested within the configuration. So it should be available on your platform regardless. Outside of that, we're looking at the event where potentially an accident happened. It was an accident where the device for the vehicle ended up being stationary, and maybe potentially written off, and it was out of a serviceable area regarding communications, and it hasn't been able to upload it. Obviously, it's still stored or manually on the SD card, and therefore manually retrievable if needs be. So you can actually take that out and do it. But no, the partition element, it will, if it's protected, it will never be overwritten.
Right. Now, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Ramani, sorry, my apologies. Do we have any support in the Indian market? Are we looking for partners? We're always looking for partners. I would suggest at the end of this, there's a form that you can fill out, send that in to us, and we'll get in touch to discuss options for India. Lawrence is asking DMS pricing. Again, Lawrence, we're sending a form out after this. Any commercial discussions we will pick up after this. We've got breakout pricing for the DMS camera, for the internal, for the rear, and obviously for the main unit. It's obviously volume based, so we'd rather get into that on a one-on-one basis with people. But you do have the option, Lawrence, if you were to want a camera after this, there's reduced pricing or the special offer, which we're going to cover in the next slide. Oluwafemi asks, can the device be integrated with a device other than Queclink tracking device? Just to be clear, Oluwafemi, you don't need a tracking device with this. The camera does everything all in one. So you order the camera, you get all the tracking information with the camera. You literally don't need a tracking device. The camera will deliver everything for you. I'm just flying through them. I think that's probably all of them. No, kind of configuration.
There's one here that Claudia asked, can a configuration of the CV200 camera be performed by 3D tracking platform app or just the web console? It would be the website, because it's your management section.
I've got David asking what the average monthly data usage is. He said we had it used over 10 gig in one day. I think you better look at your configuration there, David. Something's not right.
Absolutely, that is that's very easy to happen.
Yeah, it's all down to configuration and how you set it up, David. But yeah, that's very, very high usage. Something's not right there. Can you also show the alert setups? I think Travis did that. Yeah, I think that's probably all of them. If not, as I say, everyone, there is a form, a questionnaire at the end of this if you want to put your details onto that. In fact, I don't know if there's any others to answer, or should we move on to the special offer slide?
Here, there is a couple more, but please, if you have any inquiries, any further inquiries, please contact sales@queclink.com. Equally, if you're looking for myself or Vernon's details, we'll be providing those as well, available if you're a UK customer at all. as we provide support to the UK and Ireland. I think we need to wrap up because the timing wise we're hitting 3 o'clock now. So my apologies, we haven't answered everything. I will try and answer some of these as we finish this off. But Vernon, if you can take it through to the next step. Yeah.
Surely. Right. So special offer time. Based on this webinar, all attendees on this webinar will receive, if they decide to move forward and trial a camera, they will receive a 2-month free trial on the 3Dtracking platform. To make things even more interesting, at Queclink, we've decided to offer a free camera to the first 5 completed questionnaires that are sent through. Now, obviously, that's if you're ticking the right box to say that you're interested in buying a camera. And also on that note, anyone that's on this webinar that does want to buy cameras, even if you weren't in that first 5 and you didn't get one free, we're looking at a discounted rate for trial units. So, Oluwafemi, you asked the question, do you have a minimum order quantity, especially for pilot run? Answer the questionnaire, send it in, somebody will be in touch with you and we'll give you a discounted rate for that trial unit. And obviously we can talk commercials as well. I think that's probably it for the moment. The idea is please fill out those questionnaires with as much detail as you can. In terms of questions we haven't answered, you can put them on that form and we'll come back to you with a response. Eddie's going to be sending us an invoice for the questions that he answered, but he's also asking one himself. So we'll, Eddie, you can give me a call on that, or give Trav a call on that, and we can answer that offline if you don't mind. I think we've slightly run over, but hopefully we've given you all a taste of what the camera can deliver. We've answered the majority of questions, and anything else, please fill out those forms, send them through to us, and we'll be in touch. And I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else to add. Rudy, is there anything else you'd like to add at this point?
Thank you for everyone that attended. Always great to see such a great turnout, and we'll see everyone on the next one, hopefully shortly or soon.
Lovely. Great stuff. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll speak to you soon. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Bye.